My name is Jacob Mize, and I'm the Development Director at Mercy House. Mercy House is a nonprofit organization that serves homeless individuals and families here in Southern California, but really even outside of Southern California into Arizona as well. We do a variety of services. If there was a spectrum of homeless services, on one end you have the outreach, where we go into homeless communities, homeless encampments, high density areas of homeless populations and serve them there and try and connect them to resources. We also do shelters, kind of in the middle of that spectrum, where we offer transitional shelters, but really navigation centers that help move people into more permanent housing. And then lastly, but not least, we have permanent housing, which is basically where we're at today at one of our newest permanent housing facilities. I'm excited to work in this population because I think that no one should be homeless. I think that in the society that we live in, with the amount of wealth that we have, I don't see there to be a need for homelessness. And after meeting some of the families that I've met and some of the individuals who have lived years on the streets, I know that we can do better as a culture, as a society, and I know that with the right partnerships and with the right movement that we can actually end homelessness. I think the biggest misconception about homelessness is that everyone should get a job. I obviously think that there's a lot of dignity and value in work, and I think that all of our clients would also share that belief. But I think the misconception comes when there's this expectation that folks can just kind of wake up one morning and say, all right, I'm gonna get a job. Because as much as most of our clients would like that, we know that isn't always the case, and that's not always what they need in the moment. And whether it's because of substance abuse or a criminal record or just a variety of other things that are preventing people, like mental health illness or physical illness, preventing people from getting a job. And I think that we need to take a much larger approach and a more holistic approach to helping people become self-sufficient, because although not everyone is going to get a job tomorrow, ultimately everyone can be self-sufficient in their own way. Relationship building is actually a huge part of how we move people along from living on the streets to being in housing. Because people have been laid off from jobs, or because they've maybe stayed with family and that their ability to stay there has ran out. Or maybe it's because just a breakdown with either domestic violence or some kind of abuse. All of it to say it's a combination of broken relationships that have led someone to homelessness. And only through being able to regain someone's trust and work with them are we actually able to move them along that spectrum that I talked about to get them into permanent housing. I would say being able to come alongside someone and help them reinvest in those relationships, and helping people reconnect with family they hadn't spoken to in years, with friends that they hadn't talked to, with former employers maybe that they could get a job with again. And all of these relationship building elements that had kind of fallen to the wayside. But again, it all starts with they have to trust me first so that they know that I have their best interest in heart when we're trying to do all these different things. Mental illness plays a large role in homelessness. I think it has a cyclical relationship with people who are homeless. So you have some people who, because of their mental illness, they may lose employment, they may have relationships break down, they may cause concerns in their community and are evicted because of it. And so in that way, mental illness causes their homelessness. But on the other end of things, in the way that it kind of works backwards, is once people are homeless, a lot of times mental illness is exacerbated, and either because of lack of sleep, because of substance abuse, because of trauma that they experience on the streets. All of these things then play into exacerbating or making worse their mental illness. And so again, there's this very cyclical relationship with individuals, and it's more than just the person that you typically think of when you're walking down the street and you see someone and they're talking to themselves. And I think people think of that when they think of mental illness. And obviously, mental illness is so much broader than that. And mental illness is people with anxiety disorders, and people with depression, and people with just other forms of mental illness that aren't as apparent. And people talk about, if I'm sick and I go to the doctor because my knee hurts, like it's very apparent that, oh, that's the issue and that's what has to be overcome. But because mental illness is invisible and it's hard to pinpoint that this behavior is a result of mental illness, a lot of times it can go untreated, partly because people don't recognize that the behavior they're exhibiting is actually mental illness. And then the other big elephant in the room oftentimes is the stigma around it. And so there's this idea that, oh, if I need help because I'm anxious, then I'm weak somehow. And that's simply not the case. I think what we need is a couple different things. We would need folks obviously to help out on the ground level, help out in our shelters, help create move-in baskets for our permanent housing, help create hygiene kits for our outreach workers to take out when they're meeting someone who's on the street. But what we also need is education and advocacy, education about what the issue of homelessness actually looks like in people's communities, and advocacy going to a city council meeting if you hear they're going to be opening affordable housing in your neighborhood and coming out in support of it. I also think that just, whether it's telling your friends if you hear them make offhanded remarks about, oh, homeless people just need to get a job or that sort of thing. And really, all of that wraps into this larger goal, which I think is to just better understand people who are homeless and what they're experiencing. Love is what draws me into this community, and seeing the need that people have and being able to pour out my love to others. But it's also been a really cool thing for me to see how both our clients are so appreciative and in a sense show love back to us. But really ultimately, I think the best way for them to show love back to us is for them to do good and actually succeed in their housing. And whenever it is I see someone make it up to all their appointments and make the sacrifices of saving that no one likes to do, and again, make other sacrifices that are an act of love if they have kids or if they have a dependents and that sort of thing. And I feel like ultimately love is what is pushing us to do better for both ourselves, for our community, and really I feel like that's how it all ties in with each other. I think one of the ways that the community can show love is by having a better understanding. I think that we're able to express our love in a more authentic way or in a more helpful way if we better understand the person that we're loving. I mean, I know that when, kind of on an individual level, I know that I can meet the needs of my wife better, who I love, if I understand where she's coming from. So similarly, I think that we can all meet the needs of our homeless neighbors better if we understand where they're coming from and what they're experiencing and what they're going through and how they need to take certain steps to overcome their issues. And I think it ultimately is an act of love if we better understand the folks that we want to love. One of the times that I was most surprised while working in this field was actually with Eastside and with Erica, and I had come out to do a presentation. And while I was out, I actually got a call from one of the shelters that said our food vendor had never delivered dinner. And immediately I was frantic because I said, well, I can't cook meals for 75 people in Costa Mesa. And Erica overheard me kind of freaking out a little bit, and I was able to share with her what happened, and just out of nowhere she said, oh, we'll cover it, don't even worry about it. And she was able to literally just pick up the phone, order the pizza for us and pay for it, and the food was delivered on time. And I remember just thinking like, oh my gosh, that's huge. Like, it may not seem like that big of a deal, but it absolutely changes people's lives when maybe they weren't gonna have dinner and now they're gonna have a warm dinner in a few minutes. So I think that was just one of the most inspiring things that I've dealt with recently. Some of the greatest joys that I get to do are when I get to see people get the keys for their first time when they're moving into their home. I really think there's nothing like it, and I've been so fortunate to be there when people have slowly had the realization that they're no longer homeless, and then realizing, oh, this is my place. I don't have to sleep on the street anymore. I don't have to worry about what's gonna happen to me in the middle of the night. I don't have to worry about any of those things because I now have a home. And it really is a transformative moment for the clients, but also anyone who ever gets to experience that, it's absolutely transformative for us as well. Right now, I'm actually standing in one of those units, and it's a 3-bedroom apartment, and hopefully within a few weeks here, there will be a family of probably 5 or so who will get to move in here and have that experience of knowing what it's like to have the security of a home again. And I'm looking around now, and I'm so excited for when that moment comes where the realization clicks for this family that they get to have a place of their own. We're obviously collecting some welcome home baskets for these families who are moving into a space that, again, they haven't had a space of their own in a long time. And so things like, if you look around, dish towels and pots and pans and bed sheets and all these things that they probably don't have, and being able to now move into a place where they get to have all of those things. And again, this is a 51 unit complex, and with varying family sizes, we'll get to see literally hundreds of people impacted by the work of people advocating for these changes in their community, people advocating for affordable housing, not having that not in my backyard mentality. And it really is life-changing for the individual, but also for the hundreds of families who will get to experience these types of changes if we keep doing the work that we're trying to do. It's not just about giving them a bed in a shelter, it's about giving them a dignified housing opportunity that really upholds the value that we know that every person has. And if you are able to be here, you'll see the murals, and you'll see the architecture, and you'll see the attention to detail when it comes to the design, and all of the beautiful common spaces that we have in here, so that folks can really make this place feel like home in a way that I don't think they would have otherwise gotten. One of the most interesting things that I've ever done with Eastside was this bike clinic that we did at the Orchard. The Orchard is a permanent supportive housing complex, meaning that it is a apartment complex that specifically serves folks coming off the streets. And with folks coming off the streets, one of their big needs is typically bike repairs. A lot of clients ride bikes, they typically don't have cars. And one of the really cool things that I got to see was this kind of bike repair clinic come out to the Orchard, where again, 71 people who are freshly off the streets lived with their bikes, and being able to provide that assistance with changing their chains out, or giving them new tires, or doing all these things that I can't do, but I would love to have happen. And just seeing how the smallest things can have the biggest impact for folks. And I think that if you have any idea about a way that you can use your skills and your talents to help support the work that we're doing, I say, let's do it. Whether it's, again, people going out and being one of our champions to the city, or whether it's people collecting welcome home baskets. Again, this is not our last housing project that we're going to be opening up, and so we're going to need more hygiene kits, more welcome home baskets, more volunteers for shelters that we haven't even opened yet. And we're just really excited to see what comes with that. And they're going to need entryway mats and towels and pots and pans and really everything that we have in homes. We need $50, $100 gas cards to give to clients who can make sure that they now have the gas to get to and from work, to and from the doctor's office, to and from their children's school. We need new bicycles. We need backpacks for families who are so excited to get their kids back in school for the first time. It's crazy to think that for $10,000, the 51 families that are moving into this space will have all that they need to have a home for the first time. And again, many of the people, it's the first time in years. It comes to about literally $200 a family, and they can have a home. I just want to say a big thank you to Eastside for being a longtime partner of us and coming alongside of us. We know that you all have sacrificed already so much for us, and we're excited to see what this year brings and what future years bring to help us end homelessness.